The Fortress of Fear by Reuben White, Chapter 1. The Omali Homestead. The sun hung low in the sky, casting long, ominous shadows across the arid high plains. The Omali homestead stood proudly amidst the cracked, parched earth, its wooden walls weathered by the relentless sun and wind. Once a beacon of hope in this unforgiving wilderness, it now cowered beneath the weight of fear. Inside the homestead, the Omali family huddled together, their faces etched with worry and desperation. The air was thick with tension as they listened to the distant echoes of hooves and the haunting laughter of the bandits who had turned their sanctuary into a prison. Tom Omali, the patriarch of the family, clenched his fists in frustration. His once strong shoulders now sagged with the weight of responsibility as he struggled to protect his loved ones from the merciless outlaws who threatened their very existence. Beside him, his wife Mary clutched their youngest child tightly to her chest, her eyes darting nervously towards the boarded-up windows and barricaded doors. The homestead, once a haven of peace and tranquility, had become a fortress of fear, its walls unable to keep out the looming shadow of danger that hung over them. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the land into darkness, the Omali family braced themselves for another night of terror. Outside, the bandits circled like vultures, their cruel laughter echoing through the stillness of the desert night. In the heart of the high plains, where the line between good and evil blurred like the shifting sands, the Omali homestead stood as a testament to the resilience of the human spirit in the face of adversity. But as the night wore on, it became clear that their sanctuary was no match for the ruthless savagery of the men who sought to destroy them. Chapter 2. The Family's Plight. Inside the Omali homestead, the air was heavy with tension. The family huddled together in the dim light of a flickering lantern, their faces drawn with fear as the taunting laughter of the bandits seeped through the cracks in the walls. Tom Omali, his brow furrowed with worry, tried to reassure his family with words of strength, but his voice faltered in the face of their palpable fear. Mary Omali clung tightly to their children, her heart pounding with each distant sound of approaching danger. The children, wide-eyed and trembling, clung to their parents, seeking solace in the embrace of their loved ones. The once welcoming home now felt like a prison, its walls closing in around them as the bandits' cruel laughter echoed in their ears. Outside, the bandits' shadows danced in the flickering light of the lantern, their voices growing louder with each passing moment. The Omali family felt trapped, their sanctuary no longer a place of safety, but a battleground where their very survival hung in the balance. As the night wore on, the family's desperation grew, each creak of the floorboards sending shivers down their spines. They knew that they were outnumbered and outgunned, their only hope lying in the courage and determination of their patriarch, Tom Omali. But even Tom felt the weight of their predicament pressing down on him, his thoughts consumed by the grim reality of their situation. As the darkness enveloped them like a suffocating blanket, the Omali family braced themselves for the inevitable confrontation that awaited them. Chapter 3. The Arrival of Ro. As the night deepened, a lone figure emerged from the twilight, riding silently across the barren landscape towards the Omali homestead. Clad in black from head to toe, Ro cut a striking figure against the backdrop of the darkening sky. His horse moved with an effortless grace, its hooves barely making a sound as they kicked up clouds of dust in their wake. Ro himself sat tall in the saddle, his eyes sharp and alert, taking in every detail of the desolate landscape around him. There was an air of quiet confidence about Ro, a sense of purpose that seemed to radiate from him like heat from a fire. His reputation preceded him, whispered in hushed tones around campfires and saloons throughout the West. Ro was a legend, a gunfighter without equal, feared and respected by all who crossed his path. As he approached the Omali homestead, Ro's gaze swept over the scene before him, taking in the boarded-up windows and the barricaded doors. He could sense the fear that hung thick in the air, like a heavy fog that obscured the truth of what lay within. But Roe was undeterred. He had faced down danger countless times before, his nerves of steel and his steady hand never failing him in the heat of battle. And now, as he drew closer to the homestead, he knew that he was their only hope for salvation. With a flick of the reins, Roe urged his horse forward, his eyes fixed on the looming silhouette of the homestead against the night sky. The Omali family may have been trapped within its walls, tormented by the merciless bandits who sought to destroy them, but Roe was determined to bring justice to the high plains, no matter the cost. Chapter 4. Roe's Resolve. Roe dismounted his horse and approached the Omali homestead with purposeful strides. The wooden planks creaked beneath his boots as he stepped onto the porch, his gaze unwavering as he took in the sight before him. Inside, the Omali family gathered around a flickering lantern, their faces etched with fear and desperation. Tom O'Malley's voice faltered as he recounted the family's tale of woe, the sound of the bandits' taunting laughter still echoing in the air. Roe listened intently, his expression stoic as he absorbed every detail of their plight. He could feel the weight of their fear pressing down on him, but he refused to let it deter him from his mission. When Tom had finished speaking, Roe's gaze swept over the faces of each member of the Omali family, lingering on their frightened expressions. But there was something else there too, a flicker of hope that burned bright despite the darkness that surrounded them. With a nod of determination, Roe turned back to Tom, his voice low but firm. "I will rid you of these tormentors," he said, his words carrying the weight of a solemn oath. No one should have to live in fear within their own home. The Omali family exchanged hopeful glances, a sense of relief washing over them at Roe's words. They had heard of his legendary skill with a gun, his unwavering courage in the face of danger, and they knew that they were in good hands. As Roe prepared to face off against the bandits who had turned the Omali homestead into a fortress of fear, a sense of determination settled over him like a cloak. He would not rest until justice had been served, until the family could once again find peace within their own walls. Chapter 5. Roe's Gambit. Under the cover of darkness, Roe retreated to the outskirts of the Omali homestead to formulate his plan. With the soft glow of moonlight illuminating his determined features, he mapped out his strategy like a seasoned general planning a battlefield assault. Roe knew that the bandits' greatest weakness lay in their hubris and arrogance, traits that had blinded them to the imminent threat he posed. With this knowledge in mind, he crafted an intricate web of deception, a trap designed to lure the bandits into a false sense of security before delivering the final blow. The first step of Roe's plan was to exploit the bandits' overconfidence by subtly feeding their egos. He would allow rumors of his arrival to spread like wildfire throughout the high plains, painting him as an unstoppable force to be reckoned with. Next, Roe would strategically position himself on the outskirts of the Omali homestead, carefully observing the bandits' movements and waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Like a spider lying in wait for its prey, he would bide his time, allowing the bandits to come to him. But perhaps the most crucial element of Roe's plan was his understanding of human psychology. He knew that the bandits' arrogance would eventually lead them to underestimate him, to view him as nothing more than a lone gunslinger to be brushed aside with ease. And it was this underestimation that would ultimately seal their fate. With his plan in place, Roe settled in for the long wait ahead, his eyes fixed on the horizon as he prepared to unleash his trap upon the unsuspecting bandits. For in the game of cat and mouse that was about to unfold, Roe was the hunter and the bandits were the prey, and he intended to emerge victorious, no matter the cost. Chapter 6. Dance of Death. As the night wore on, the air around the Omali homestead grew heavy with anticipation. The sound of approaching hoofbeats echoed through the darkness, signaling the arrival of the bandits who had terrorized the family for far too long. Unbeknownst to the bandits, Roe lay in wait, his trap set and ready to spring. With nerves of steel and a heart filled with righteous fury, he watched as the outlaws drew closer, their laughter ringing out like a death knell in the stillness of the night. And then, in a flurry of motion, the trap was sprung. With lightning speed, Rowe emerged from the shadows, his guns blazing as he unleashed a hail of bullets upon the unsuspecting bandits. The night erupted into chaos as the sound of gunfire filled the air, the crack of bullets and the screams of the wounded mingling together in a symphony of violence. But Rowe was a force to be reckoned with, his aim true and his resolve unyielding. With each shot fired, he brought justice to the high plains, his guns singing a mournful dirge for those who had fallen victim to the bandits' cruelty. The bandits, caught off guard by Rowe's sudden onslaught, fought back with desperate fury, but it was no use. They were outmatched and outgunned, their arrogance leading them straight into Rowe's carefully laid trap. One by one, the bandits fell, their bravado replaced by the cold, unyielding embrace of death. And as the dust settled and the echoes of gunfire faded into the night, Rowe stood triumphant, his gun still smoking in his hands. The Omali family emerged from their homestead, their eyes filled with gratitude and awe as they beheld the lone figure standing amidst the carnage. Rowe had delivered them from their tormentors, bringing an end to the reign of terror that had plagued the high plains for far too long. And as the first light of dawn crept over the horizon, Rowe mounted his horse and rode away into the sunrise, a silent guardian disappearing into the vast expanse of the western frontier. But his legend would live on, echoing through the canyons and valleys, a testament to the indomitable spirit of the Old West. Chapter 7. Triumph and Departure. As the last echoes of gunfire faded into the night, a heavy silence descended upon the high plains. The dust settled, revealing Rowe standing amidst the aftermath of the fierce battle, his guns still smoking in his hands. Victory was his. Justice had been served. With a sense of quiet satisfaction, Rowe surveyed the scene before him. The bandits lay scattered on the ground, their reign of terror finally brought to an end. The Omali homestead, once a fortress of fear, now stood as a symbol of resilience and triumph. From the shadows of the homestead emerged the Omali family, their faces filled with gratitude and awe as they approached Rowe. Tom Omali stepped forward, his eyes shining with unshed tears as he extended a hand to the gunslinger. "Thank you," he said, his voice choked with emotion. "You've saved us from a fate worse than death." Rowe clasped Tom's hand firmly, his gaze meeting the patriarch's with a silent understanding. There were no words needed between them, only the shared knowledge that justice had been served, and that the Omali family could finally find peace. With a nod of farewell, Rowe turned away from the homestead, his black stallion waiting patiently for him in the distance. He knew that his work here was done, that he had fulfilled his duty as the avenger of the high plains. Mounting his horse, Rowe cast one final glance back at the Omali family, their figures silhouetted against the rising sun. And then, with a flick of the reins, he rode away into the dawn, leaving behind a memory of fiery justice that would echo through the canyons and valleys for years to come. For Rowe was a phantom of the Old West, a silent guardian who rode alone into the darkness, leaving only the memory of his righteous fury behind him. And though his name may fade from the annals of history, his legend would live on, a beacon of hope for those who dared to defy the forces of evil in the untamed wilderness of the western frontier. Epilogue: The Legend of Rowe. As the sun rose higher in the sky, casting its warm glow across the vast expanse of the high plains, the legend of Rowe lingered like a whisper on the wind. Stories of his deeds spread like wildfire, carried by the mouths of those who had witnessed his fiery justice firsthand. To some, Rowe was a hero, a lone gunslinger who stood as a beacon of hope in a lawless land. To others, he was a phantom, a shadowy figure whose very presence struck fear into the hearts of those who dared to cross him. But to all who knew of him, Ro was a symbol of vengeance incarnate, a force of nature that could not be tamed or controlled. His legend echoed through the canyons and valleys of the Old West, a reminder of the indomitable spirit of those who dared to defy the darkness that threatened to engulf them. And though Ro himself had faded into the annals of history, his legacy lived on in the hearts and minds of those who had been touched by his presence. For as long as there were injustices to be righted and evils to be vanquished, the legend of Ro would continue to burn bright, a testament to the enduring power of the human spirit in the face of adversity. And so, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long, sinister shadows across the high plains once more, the legend of Ro lived on, a flickering flame of hope in the darkness of the western frontier. If you are enjoying adventure in the Old West, feel free to hit the subscribe button for future posts.